Hi sewists and aspiring sewists, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in today's tutorial I'm going to be teaching you how to make this beautiful net reversible hair bonnet. So if this looks like what you're interested in, then let's dive into the main video. So for this tutorial you'll be needing 1 yard of this tiny elastic. You also will be needing 1 yard of this net fabric. You can get this at the market for as low as 1,215 depending on where you're buying from. And you'll be needing 1 yard of this bridal satin also. So the first thing I'm going to be doing will be to fold my fabric like this, and I'm going to measure 14 inches as my width measurement. As you can see, the fabric is on double fold, so I'm going to measure 24 inches as the width, while I'm going to measure 28 inches as the length, which is double of 14 inches. I'm also going to lay my plain satin on my net fabric, and I'm also going to take the same measurement, and as you can see, what I have is equivalent to what I have on my net fabric. Once I have this laid together, the next thing I'm going to do now will be to flip both fabric together like this, and I'm going to go ahead to measure 14 inches. Now I'm going to measure this 14 inches on the different angle of my fabric. So after measuring my 14 inches, this is what we have. So I'm going to go ahead to cut what we have here. After that, next thing I'm going to do will be to spread out my fabric like this, and I'm going to place the plain fabric on the net fabric. So I'm going to make sure that the right side of my plain fabric is what is facing the right side of my net fabric. I hope this is clear. So once I have that done, I'm going to go ahead to pin this down, just as you can see me illustrate in this video. So I'm going to pin this round the circumference. Now the next thing I'm going to do will be to mark out my point of entry. So at this point I'm going to go ahead to mark a point where I'm going to start my sewing from. In between my starting point, I'm also going to measure 3 inches from my starting point, which should also serve as my closing point. So the 3 inches allowance is going to be where I'm going to leave and not sew on. So I'm going to be sewing on this part, just as you can see me do in this video. So I'm going to sew around from the starting point to meet the end point. So here is a view of how it looks like after sewing. So the next thing I'm going to do now will be to turn this over to the right part. So I'm going to go back to my opening, and I'm going to turn this over to the right side. So once you flip it to the right side, this is what your reversible hair bonnet will be looking like. So if you can iron it at this point, then go ahead to iron it, but for me I am unable to iron at this point, so I just left it like that. So at this point you want to be sure that your plain silk fabric and your net fabric is actually aligning together. You want to be sure that there is no excess on your plain fabric and also on your net fabric. So once you're able to get this, then you go ahead to measure 2 inches from your brim, just as you can see me mark in this video. So I'm going to be marking 2 inches all through around the circumference, just as you can see me illustrate right here. The next thing to do after marking this point is to sew around the circumference. I'm going to be running a double stitch around the circumference. So once I have that done, this is what it's going to be looking like. So make sure that you're using a matching thread for this part of your circumference. So you can see that I left the space where I'm going to be inserting my elastic. I left about 1 inch allowance at the first line. So the next thing you're going to do now will be to measure your elastic. So for my elastic here, I'm going to be making use of 21 inches. You can decide to make use of 20 inches depending on the size of your head, but I'm going to be making use of 21 inches for this particular hair bonnet. After that, the next thing to do now will be to insert my elastic into the space I initially created. So I'm going to be doing this with one of my sewing equipment, so you can do this with either your safety pin or whatsoever is convenient for you. So at this point, the next thing you want to do now is to tie your elastic at this point. So you can tie this as many times as you can tie it up as up to 3 times or 4 times, just depending on how firm you want it to be. So once you get this done, the next thing now will be to spread out your hair bonnet, just as you can see me do in this video. Now remember that we left 1 inch allowance, which we are also going to be sealing back. So I'm going to go ahead to seal this part of my hair bonnet, and also I'm going to go ahead to seam the brim part of my hair bonnet. You can see that it is still open, so I'm going to seal this part. Now make sure that when you are doing this, you are making use of your matching thread. You're making use of white and purple thread, depending on the color you're actually using for your hair bonnet. So finally I've gone ahead to do all of that, and this is the final look. This is the final look of our net reversible hair bonnet. So if you'll be trying this, let me know in the comment section. You can also make sure that the kind of net you're going to be using will be more transparent than even the one I used, because this one is quite tight. The design is quite tight, so it didn't really bring out the beauty of the hair bonnet. So depending on the color of your choice, you can decide to go with pink, yellow, green, blue, depending on what you like. So guys, if you watched this video till this point, this is me saying thank you for watching my video. And if you're a new subscriber, this is me saying thank you for subscribing. Thank you for tuning in. And if you are watching this video and you have not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? This is a page where we post streetwear content, streetwear tutorials. So if this means a lot to you, please kindly subscribe, like, share and comment, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.